let's back up, because you have to understand who's holding the pen now. In June 2025, the PGA Tour did something it had never done in its entire history. It hired a CEO, not a commissioner who came up through golf, a CEO. Brian Rolapp, straight out of the NFL, where for 2 decades he ran the most powerful media machine in American sports. This is the man who helped stitch together an 11-figure NFL television empire, and the tour handed him the keys. Think about the last time the tour touched the number of full cards. 1983. Ronald Reagan was in his first term. The guys losing their cards this year weren't born yet. For 42 seasons, 125 was the number. It was the promise. Finish inside the top 125 and you have a job next year. That was the deal every kid grinding the mini tours was chasing.
That deal is dead. Starting in 2026, only the top 100 in the FedEx Cup keep full status. Finish 101 to 125, the exact range that used to mean you made it, and now you get conditional status, a maybe, a standby ticket. And it doesn't stop there. The number of Korn Ferry Tour graduates who earn a card dropped from 30 to 20. The developmental pipeline, the whole point of grinding for years, got narrower too. Field sizes at most tournaments got smaller.
Now, put yourself in that 101 to 125 range. You did everything right. You finished inside the number that meant survival your entire career. And someone in a boardroom you've never sat in decided that number doesn't count anymore. How would you feel walking into next season not knowing if you have a tee time? The tour's official reason? Pace of play. Daylight. Operations, smoother logistics. That's the pitch. And here's where it gets interesting, because the players didn't buy it for 1 second. But none of the official spin compares to what happened when a major champion, a guy with nothing personally to lose from this, said out loud what the locker room was whispering. That's coming up. Lucas Glover is not a bomb thrower. He's a U.S. Open champion, 6-time winner on tour, a guy respected as one of the most level-headed, thoughtful voices in the game, the kind of player who usually gives the diplomatic answer. And that's what makes what he said land like a hammer.
Speaking to Golf Week about the changes, Glover called them flatly terrible. He accused the tour of hiding behind pace of play to justify a radical restructuring of who gets to make a living, and then he delivered the line that ripped through the whole sport. Sit with that. That's not a rookie venting. That's a major champion, a made man, financially secure, someone this change barely touches, publicly accusing his own tour's leadership of insulting the intelligence of the membership. He didn't do it for himself. He did it for the guys at 110 in the standings who can't afford a publicist to fight back. 25 careers, erased from the top line, to solve a pace of play problem nobody bothered to fix for 20 years. And Glover wasn't alone. Matt Fitzpatrick, a U.S. Open winner himself, backed him publicly, calling it pathetic that pace of play gets raised every single year and nothing ever actually changes. 2 major champions, same week, same message. The reason they're giving you is not the real reason.
So here's your first real question, and I want a side. Is Glover a hero defending the little guy? Or is he a rich veteran protecting an outdated system that needed to shrink? There's no middle answer. Pick one and tell me why in the comments.
Because here's the uncomfortable part nobody wants to answer honestly. If the tour genuinely believed cutting to 100 cards makes the product better, why did it need the pace of play cover story at all? Why not just say, we want fewer players and a more exclusive tour? What are they afraid of you concluding? The math is what makes players furious. Under the field size guidelines, some flagship events drop by 12 to 24 spots. Fewer cards, fewer exemptions for the developmental guys, smaller fields. Every lever pulled in the same direction, down, for everyone except the top of the top.
Imagine you've spent 15 years earning your way onto the biggest stage in your profession. You finally get there, and in your first full season, someone who has never hit a competitive shot in their life, someone hired for his television deals, signs off on a rule that says the bar you just cleared no longer counts. That's the emotional reality for the 101 to 125 crowd right now.
And just when this looked completely one-sided, completely open and shut against the suits, someone every golf fan on earth respects stepped in and said something that flips how you should read this entire story. I'll get to exactly who and exactly what they said in a few minutes. Now here's the part nobody is talking about. While the number of players who can earn a full card was being cut by 20%, the money at the very top was exploding, not shrinking, exploding. The Tour Championship purse in 2026 sits at $40 million. The Players' Championship, $25 million. Every signature event and every playoff event, $20 million each. These are the richest purses in the history of the sport. At the exact same moment the Tour told 25 players their cards no longer exist, it was writing the biggest checks it has ever written to the guys already at the top.
Here's the number that reframes everything. The Tour didn't do this while broke. It did this after taking a $1.5 billion outside investment from Strategic Sports Group, a deal reported as potentially reaching $3 billion. Then it hired a premium NFL-caliber CEO, whose exact salary it has never disclosed.
Pause on that. More money coming in than ever? A more expensive front office than ever? Bigger top-end purses than ever? And the group that got told to tighten its belt? The rank-and-file players. The card is the one thing that got scarcer.
And this is the moment I need you to stop thinking like a fan and start thinking like one of those players. If your company posted record revenue, took a $1 billion investment, paid up for a superstar executive, and then eliminated a fifth of the workforce's job security for efficiency, would you buy the efficiency story, or would you feel like you just got told exactly where you rank?
That's the tension. This isn't a tour that couldn't afford 125 cards. It's a tour that chose 100. Scarcity wasn't forced on them. Scarcity is the strategy. In fact, Rolap said so himself, almost in those words. He's leaned publicly on 3 pillars for this whole overhaul: scarcity, simplicity. It's the design goal. Fewer players, fewer spots, more exclusivity. Because exclusivity is what drives television value. And television value is exactly what this CEO was hired to maximize.
Here's what I promised you. Because if you think this is a clean story of villains in suits versus heroes in spikes, it isn't. And the people complicating it aren't nobodies.
Start with Brian Harman, Open Championship winner, respected veteran, no one's idea of a company man. When asked about these cuts, Harman didn't torch them. He said he completely understood why the players in the danger zone were upset, that he'd feel exactly the same in their shoes, but that there were, in his words, many different ways to look at it. Translation from a guy with real credibility: the anger is legitimate, but so is the argument for a leaner tour. And then there's the one name that stops every argument in this sport cold: Tiger Woods. Woods sat on the search committee that hired Rolap, and when asked about the new CEO late in 2025, Tiger didn't hedge. He called him fantastic, an amazing leader. The most powerful player of all time, the man players trust more than any. So now it's genuinely split, and I want your gut answer.
When Tiger Woods and Lucas Glover land on opposite sides of the same decision, who are you trusting? The champion protecting the field or the icon backing the boss? Comment Glover or Tiger. I'm reading these. And now I have to be fair to Roll-Up, because a cartoon villain would be a lie, and you deserve.
Roll-Up did not walk in to hurt players. He walked in under enormous pressure. He inherited a tour at war with Live Golf, bleeding stars, its credibility damaged after the Saudi framework deal blindsided its own members. He took $1.5 billion in outside money, and investors expect a return. His entire career says one thing: scarcity plus premium equals television gold. In the NFL, 17 games a season is worth more than 30 would be. He is applying the only playbook that has ever worked for him.
So here's the fair question. If you genuinely believed that a smaller, sharper, more exclusive tour was the only way to survive against Saudi billions and win the next media deal, would you have the nerve to cut 25 cards knowing the players would hate you for it? Or is that exactly the kind of decision that should never be made by someone who never had to earn one of those cards himself? That's the real dividing line. Not good versus evil, vision versus loyalty, and they may not be compatible.
Because here's what almost nobody watching realizes. What happened in 2026 was the appetizer.
The real restructuring lands in 2028. Roll-Up's boards have already approved it, a 2-series model. A top tier, the Championship Series, roughly 16 elevated events for around 120 to 130 of the best players. And beneath it, a Challenger Series, a second tier for everyone trying to climb up. Promotion and relegation, just like European soccer. You perform, you rise. You slip, you drop.
And here is the detail that proves the player's fears were never paranoia. Roll-Up himself, on the record, admitted that in this new lower tier, the purses would be smaller and the title sponsors would pay less. Read that again. The man running the tour openly confirmed that a whole class of tournaments, a whole class of players, will play for less money by design. That's not a rumor. That's not sources say. That's the CEO saying it out loud.
Golf has spent 100 years selling one promise above others. Everybody plays the same tournament. The Club Pro and the World #1 tee it up in the same field on the same Thursday. That flat, democratic dream is what separated golf from every stratified sport on Earth. Promotion and relegation ends it. It builds a permanent upstairs and a permanent downstairs.
And that's why players like Glover matter so much right now. He's already made his money.
Step all the way back, because the card cut is not the disease, it's the symptom.
Name the pattern out loud. Every major decision this tour has made since the money got involved has moved power up and away from the players. The surprise Saudi framework negotiated over the players' heads. The $1 billion SSG investment structured at the top. The first outside CEO in history chosen by a committee, not the membership. And now, fewer cards, smaller fields, and a 2-tier future with a built-in lower class. So the real question isn't about 100 versus 125. It's this. Does professional golf still belong to the players who play it, or has it quietly become an asset class run for investors where players are just the content? Tell me which one you think it already is. Not becoming, is. The suits didn't take the game by force. The players handed it over one reasonable-sounding decision at a time.
That's how it always happens. Not one dramatic coup. A pace of play memo here, an investment there, a restructuring that future-proofs the product. Each step defensible on its own. Add them up, And the people who built the sport are negotiating for scraps of a thing they used to own outright. Rollap's.
Here's my final verdict. No hedging. Cutting to 100 cards wasn't about daylight or pace of play. It was the first visible move in a plan to make professional golf smaller, richer at the top, and permanently tiered. And the players who spoke up weren't overreacting. They were reading the map correctly. If you want to see how this actually plays out, because the 2028 model still has one massive unresolved fight buried inside it, subscribe, because that's the video I'm making next. Next time, the one detail in the 2028 2-Series plan that even the players who support Rollap are quietly terrified of, the mid-season promotion and relegation rule. Because if the tour lets players jump from the lower tier to the top tier mid-year based on hot streaks, it changes who qualifies for the majors, who keeps their status, and who gets left behind in real time. I'll break down exactly who wins, who gets buried, and why the guys at number 100 might be the biggest losers of all. That's next.